Hello everybody, this is Susan Heaton-Wright from Superstar Communicator. I am absolutely delighted because I have a real crush on this fellow speaker, Andy Lopata. He is a specialist in professional relationships and networking for over 20 years. He was called one of Europe's leading business networking strategists by the Financial Times and a true master of networking by The Independent and Forbes.com. He's a very experienced international speaker. He's the author of 5 books, has been quoted in a number of other business books, and regularly quoted in the international press. Andy is a fellow and a board member of the Professional Speaking Association UK and Ireland, and a fellow of the Learning and Information Institute, as well as a master of the Institute for Sales Management. He is also just one of 26 recipients of the PSA's top honour, the Award of Excellence. We have excellence on the podcast, listeners. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you very much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
The reason why I was really interested in having you on the podcast is because obviously you are an expert in networking and you've recently written a book about leadership and connecting in that sort of way.
Yes. Rather than being a book about leadership, it's a book about the importance of professional relationships for leaders.
And that's, sorry to interrupt you, but that's what really interesting. We assume that leaders or okay, they don't need connections in the same way as other people, but you make it very, very clear the value for leaders to have really good network.
Yeah, I think that for most people, and it won't be true in all cases, but for most people who reach a position of leadership in an organization, they'll get the basics of relationship building. You know, otherwise they would have struggled to have made it to that level in the first place. But there's a difference between instinctively understanding how to build and maintain the right relationships and having a strategic focus on, do you know the right people? Have you got the right relationships in the right areas? Where are the gaps in your network? Are you building deep enough relationships? And are you asking for help in the right ways? And, you know, even if you're brilliant at this, if you can enhance what you do by 10%, then you'll achieve so much more. It's the same as, you know, Tiger Woods, you know, or Rory McIlroy may be at the top of their game in golf, but they still have coaches who will say, just look at your swing. Let's see what we can do with that drive just to improve it. Or let's look at your putting. And they'll still focus in on the stuff that they do better than any of us. They know they can still get more out of it.
They can still get that extra 1%.
Yes.
I think that reading the book, because obviously I've read it, as you know,
Yes.
I was really interested in the fact that you could see that people are on different levels of a business relationship with you and that they can move in and out of a relationship.
Yeah, that came from, it's something I've been talking about for years. And then late last year, a visual model of it came up for me. But I've been saying for years that when we talk about networks, people have a subconscious image of them as a box with a number of people in. You're in my network or you're not. How many people have you got in your network? And networks don't operate like that. I meet you at an event. We have a conversation. You're in my network, but maybe for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Because if we don't follow up, it's not going to be long before I forget you. And we meet again in 6 months. You know, you glance across the room, there might be a vague tint of recognition. In many cases, there isn't. You're out of each other's network. So I developed what I call the 7 stages of professional relationship. And it starts from that recognize. That's the starting point. So when you recognize someone, they are in your network. When we have an initial conversation, someone's in our network. But then the job is to bring them deeper into the network by building a stronger, more robust relationship. And so they move through the different levels of professional relationship. And you're getting people to the level where they are your supporters, and they'll advocate for you. The ultimate level, the seventh, is friend, at which point you go and talk to someone who's an expert on personal relationships rather
Yes.
than professional.
I thought that that was such a powerful model, and I hadn't come across it before. And listeners, you need to buy the book really to find out more about that, which I would recommend. Another thing, and I think that it's relevant for now with the possibility that there are going to be job losses, thinking about where you have gaps in your network.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's even a possibility; it's a probability, and
Yes.
it's already happening. And
Yeah.
we're going to see a lot of people with exceptional skills and great CVs on the job market where there aren't that many opportunities available, and the opportunities that are filled will be filled through word of mouth
Yes.
and through recommendation, and jobs will be filled before they're advertised.
Yes.
It's always been the way, whether companies implement a policy designed to ensure fairness or not. In someone's mind, they know who they want for that role. And so the stronger your network and the stronger your communication with the people that would help you and be happy to help you, the more chance it's going to be that you'll find the right connections. And so, I mean, going back years, when I first set up this business, one of my first clients was the BBC, and they were making a lot of redundancies at the time, and they were also moving to Manchester, and that was all in the that was all being planned. So a lot of people were going through a consultation program about their roles, and as part of the outsourcing project, the outplacement project, sorry, I was brought in to talk about using your network to get a job. And the lessons I applied there are still the same. And those gaps are key. If you know where you want to work, you need to know that you have strong relationships with people who influence the decision makers. It's as simple as that. And if you don't have the right connections in the right places, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
And I thought that it was great that you also thought about not just internally in an organization that you're networking, but very much you're thinking about external contacts as well. And that's something that I feel that people often miss out on when they're in a big organization.
Yes, I think it depends on your job role. I mean,
I suppose so, yes.
a lot of my time has been spent teaching sales teams how to generate
All right.
referrals. Now,
Yes.
the problem with sales teams is the reverse, because they don't think about their networks internally where there is such a potential source of referral, and they
Yes.
only focus on external. So I guess the wider point, the broader point, is don't wear blinkers when you're developing professional relationships. Understand not just the obvious people that you need to have connections with because they're direct stakeholders in whatever you're doing, but think laterally, think more broadly about who influences decisions, about where you can get information, about who the gatekeepers are. I talk about 3 I's,
Yes.
and that's introducers, information, insight, and ideas, and influencers. And yes, I know there's actually more than 3 I's, but there's 3 of them in one there.
Yes.
But you need all of those people in your network in each stakeholder group. And by stakeholder group, I'm talking about anyone who influences what you're trying to achieve, anyone who can have a say in you reaching your final objective. Whether it's a career generated objective, I want to get that promotion in a year's time, whether it's a role generated objective, I need to get this project launched
Yes.
on time and effectively. In both cases, there are going to be groups of stakeholders who have a say in the process, and they can tell you what's going on, they can influence key decision makers, and they can open doors for you. So you need to know where you don't know the right people, and you've got to start building the relationships. Where you do know the right people but the relationship isn't strong enough, and where you do know the right people, the relationship is strong enough but you're not asking the right questions.
And that moves on to the whole idea of asking, and I know that you're working on this as a concept as well. As British people, we often feel a little bit shy about asking, and yet this is one of the key things within the book that I read, that asking for help, asking if you can help others, and if you can support others, was a very strong message within your book.
Yes, and it's not just a British thing, but I do think that we struggle with it particularly. Um, there are, I think, there are two things there, because you talked about helping others and asking
Yes,
to help others, and you also talked about asking for help for yourself.
yes,
We don't ask for help because we don't want to be a burden to other people, because we don't want to look weak and vulnerable,
yes, yeah,
and because we assume that other people don't or don't want to or aren't able to help us, and actually each one of those can be overridden as an objection very easily. In
yeah,
terms of being seen as a burden, if you think about the times you have helped other people, and I'm talking about people you like and you know well, if you've been able to help them, you've taken pleasure from it. So by not asking for help for yourself, you're denying people the pleasure of
yes,
helping you. It's just down to you to make it easy for them to do so.
yes,
In terms of looking vulnerable, it's how you position it. Well, there's two things. It's how you position it. You can turn around and say, "Oh, my life is in a tailspin. I've just lost my job. I was rubbish at it, and I desperately need another job, or I'll lose my house. Can you recommend me?" You look pretty vulnerable, but
yes,
you can equally turn around and say, "I'm ready for the next step in my career. I did really well at the last place, but I want to step up,
yes,
and this is what my qualities are, and this is what I want to do, and I know this person, and I think I could work for them and be very effective. Would you introduce me?" That doesn't sound vulnerable at all.
no, it doesn't.
It's in the mind. It's these small
Yeah,
things.
but I think going back to your model about the different stages of a relationship, I have had somebody that I've just met, and they almost demand a connection or a huge favor before the relationship has moved to that level. And you don't know their work yet, you don't trust them. um, have you come across that, or is it just
Oh
me?
my God, all the time.
Oh, okay.
The classic example of people that send you LinkedIn connection requests out of the blue.
Oh
It's
god,
all
yeah,
about them. I
yeah,
got one this week from someone raising money for charity. I said, I've got enough people that I know who want help and support. Best of luck, but
yes,
you don't go to a complete stranger and say, "Give me money," however worthy the cause.
yes,
And I mean, that's okay, quite an extreme example, and it's a difficult one to talk about because it was a worthy cause. But there are a lot of them around. Go to the people you know, and if you don't know them, build relationships with people.
yes,
Um, but you get that from a business perspective all the
yes,
time as
you
well.
do.
Ivan Meisner, who founded BNI, and I've done a lot of work with over the years. Uh, Ivan would go to conferences, and Ivan's very well connected. He's been invited by Richard Branson to Necker Island on more than one occasion, and he's got a network to die for. And he gets people come up to him at conferences out of the blue and just say, "Oh, Ivan, could you introduce me to Richard Branson?" Or whoever. It's I find it strange. But my one of my earliest talks on networking, I used the phrase "pursue the relationship, not the sale."
Yes,
And
I think that makes complete sense.
the classic analogy is walking into a bar, seeing someone you fancy there, going up and saying, "Right, what do you want for breakfast in the morning?" Before you even say your name. And unfortunately, there are people who do that. And there's a meme going around on LinkedIn at the moment. Not a meme. There's a status, one of these statuses that everyone just copies and pastes, and it's getting huge engagement. It's designed to.
Yes,
It's not
yes,
thought about. And it basically says, since using LinkedIn, I didn't really understand networking before, but since using LinkedIn, it's been so powerful for me, and I've learned this, this, and this. Immediately, it's inauthentic because I've seen several people post it saying exactly the same thing. But then with forgetting the inauthenticity for a moment, what it says in that first part of it is great. It is about building relationships, and it talks about that. And then it says, so let's all connect with each other. Comment below and send a connection request to everyone who comments. That's purely designed to get people commenting on your updates so that you get seen by LinkedIn. That anyone commenting on that is being played for a
yes,
start. But then what happens is people pile on and go, what a wonderful idea. Yes, I'll connect. No one talks to each other. If they have time to talk to all these connections, they're not doing any work. And I did comment, because the first time I saw it was because I was tagged by someone who said Andy would know, have something to say about this. And it was someone I knew. And so I said, look, I really agree with your philosophy, but not the approach. And I explained why. And with his permission, I posted a link to a blog about why I don't accept requests from strangers, or what you think about. Now, this was the interesting thing for me. I posted specifically to say that I don't agree with connecting blindly. And I posted a link to a blog about the dangers of doing so, what you have to think about before you do. And several people just sent me impersonal connection requests. And when I queried them on it, and I knew where it had come from, they were saying, oh, I saw you on that thread. And one of them said, oh, I saw what you said, but anyway, I believe in it. And it's just this lack. You're already telling me you don't respect what I say. If you're telling me you read it, you think I don't mean it, or you don't respect it, and therefore it doesn't count. And I think people are just, my business strapline is connecting is not enough. And has been for years, for probably a decade, because this philosophy of mass connecting is a good thing has been around for a long time. It's great for marketing and for gaming.
Yes.
You want as many people to see your updates as possible, and you don't care about those people, then connect with as many as you like. And I know by refusing to do so, that's costing me people viewing my updates, and it's costing me marketing. But don't call it networking.
No.
And don't pretend.
Very, very interesting, because there's so much that is similar between the actual spoken communication and networking, isn't there?
Yeah, completely. Because if you don't communicate, you can't network. You can't have a genuine connection.
But these people aren't communicating, are they? Just pressing a button.
They're clicking connect and clicking accept. That's not communication of any kind. They'd never get close to spoken communication, because they're not even having written communication between them.
And they've probably got a bot doing it for them, that by return you then get the sales spiel.
Yeah, I sent a connection request. It's happened a couple of times in the last few weeks. I've sent connection requests to people I want to talk to about the new book. So I have another book coming out in December. And one of them has written a very similar book, an excellent book. I won't name them for obvious reasons. And I wanted to approach her about coming on my podcast and about an endorsement for the book. And because we're writing about the same thing and I like what she's written, I sent a connection request personalized. It was accepted straight away. I thought this is brilliant, but no response to the message. I'm used to that. So I sent a note. I said, thank you for accepting. Did you see the message? Nothing. I've then followed up again. Have you seen the message? Nothing. And another one was, I have to be careful because I don't want to make it too obvious who it is, but a personality who I want to talk to about charities involved in, and a link to the book and a few other things around that. Sent him a LinkedIn connection request with a personalized message, accepted. Great. Did you see my previous message? Nothing. Did you see it again? Nothing. I then messaged him separately and he said, I never look at LinkedIn. And so, my favorite story is I was in Singapore a few years ago and I had dinner with a contact of a client of mine. And we were talking over dinner. And it was a lovely couple. And it turned out that the wife of my client's contact had seen a lot of my work because she worked for a company for whom I'd done a lot of training videos about 2 years before. So unbeknownst to me, when she heard my name, she was like, oh my God, I've seen all his training videos. So they had already done a lot of research into me. And they'd seen my posts on LinkedIn about this mindless connecting for the sake of it. And they were telling me that their daughter, when she was 2, this would have been a couple of years before this, had got a hold of her mum's iPad and it was open on LinkedIn and had just gone connect. And I just said, did anyone accept? Yeah, a few people did.
Oh.
And I said, I can picture them running around going, look, I've got this bigger LinkedIn network, not knowing that one of them was 2 years old.
That's so funny.
I was reminded of it today. I had a blank connection request. I get quite a lot every day,
Yeah.
and I have a message that I send out. I'm on the verge of stopping it because it's just taking too much of my time. A message that I send out saying, "Please tell me more. You know why you'd like to connect." I got a GIF as a response. I was just like, "Does your daddy know that you've got his
Yes,
LinkedIn?"
exactly.
Grown person, grown man, sending a GIF as a response to a serious business question. Why? Why? Oh, I'm speechless, which isn't very good on a podcast about spoken communication.
But obviously you spend a lot of time networking and nurturing your connections, and your whole network. How long do you spend on this? Are you on your phone 24/7? Do you
No.
get any work
Uh,
done?
yes, I do. And that's one of the reasons why I am now, after years of saying I will respond to every LinkedIn connection request, I'm thinking about putting something in my profile saying if you don't personalize it and I don't know you, you won't get a reply, because I just can't. I can't keep up, and it's a shame because there are some genuine people
Yes.
who are connecting for genuine reasons within that, but I'm not willing to delegate that. I in terms I can't give you an amount of time because it's filler time very
Yes.
often. I'm
Yes.
going through my emails. There are LinkedIn connection requests in there. I will deal with them in one
Yes.
go. Facebook is my water cooler.
Yeah.
Well, we all work from home these days, so Facebook fills in those moments for me, and LinkedIn does to a degree as well. So I don't block off time. It's something I advise clients to do because they're not in the habit of
Yes.
doing it. Because I'm in the habit of doing it, I can do it at certain moments. If I'm writing, for example, my brain needs a break at certain points. It's the same when I read. I'll read several pages, put the Kindle down, look at Facebook for 2 minutes, then I'll go back. And it's the same when I'm writing. It gives my brain a breath.
Yes.
Maybe stale air occasionally, particularly if I go on Twitter, but it does give my brain a breath. So that's how I would tend to use it. I'm not proactively seeking new contacts generally.
No.
I will, as I talk about in the book, I will proactively seek to plug the gaps in my network and
Yes.
to raise the quality of my network. And that's not to diminish the quality of the network that's there, but very much like those top athletes, I want to raise it 1%,
Yeah.
raise it 1%. So I will always look for opportunities to do that. But I won't be sitting there going, oh my God, I need another 500 connections on LinkedIn.
It's a
I don't take that
numbers,
approach.
isn't it?
And my network's big enough. It's too big already to manage relationships. So that 7 stages of professional relationships is really important as people are coming in, coming out. And it's about making sure people are cemented deep enough. So if I don't then interact with them for a couple of years even or longer, the relationship is strong enough that we can pick it up further down the line. And I'm seeing the proof of that all the time now because, I've been at this for over 20 years. There are people come back into my world after 10 years and
I,
you can just pick it up because it was strong enough in the first place.
I mean, I've had that over lockdown. I've had a couple of past clients. One 12 years ago
Mm.
contacted me. She's now a CEO of a business and brought me in to do some
Yeah.
training, and because I was visible on LinkedIn, she thought of me.
Yeah. I had a similar, even longer ago. Someone I went to sixth form with
Oh,
saw something in my newsletter. It might have been about the new book. And he sent me a message on Facebook. And because we'd been friends on Facebook for maybe 6 or 7 or 8, 10 years, whatever, but we've not really engaged on it. But our friendship was strong enough 30 years ago, giving away my age now, and it's probably more than 30 years. Our friendship was strong enough then that I knew who it was immediately. He'd been keeping his eye on what I was doing. You could pick it up straight away. In fact,
that's
on today,
astonishing.
LinkedIn today, one of my old sixth form friends commented on one of my updates.
It's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, I always ask my guests for 3 top tips.
Mm.
Could you share 3 brief top tips?
Yeah, I note the word brief. Uh, I've been waffling. I know.
No, no, I wasn't.
My brief thoughts as well. I'm thinking about the theme of the podcast and the importance of spoken communication. So I would say, number one is put yourself in the shoes of the people you want to influence or engage with.
That's a good.
I call it my eye test. I
Yes.
talk about LinkedIn connection requests. I got a response the other day to my question, tell me why you'd like to connect. It had 16 I's and no U's. She failed my eye test. You need to be using the word you more than you use the word I. Put yourself in the shoes of the other person. That would be my first tip. The second tip, I'm bearing in mind my waffling on this podcast, is be concise. Take the 10-year-old test. That, you know, tell a 10-year-old the message you want to get across. Make sure that you know them. It's not a random 10-year-old in the street, preferably, but tell a 10-year-old the message you want to get across and ask them to repeat it to you in their own words. If they
Brilliant.
can't do that, then you haven't got your message right, because that's the attention span of other people for our needs and our wants and our businesses and our lives. So that would be my second one. And the third, again, you know, thinking spoken communication, we live in a multicultural society.
Yes.
So it is tied in with the 10-year-old test, but think about your audience in terms of the words they understand, the jargon that you're using, and the pace at which you're speaking to them. You know, don't treat people as idiots,
No.
but just be respectful of the level that they're at in terms of the level of their English or whatever it may be.
Brilliant tips. Thank you so much for those. I'm sure, listeners, you're going to go away and think, yeah, I'm going to try those. So before we finish, you have intimated about the book, a new book that you're bringing out, and I know that you're just about to bring out a podcast.
Yes, creativity in lockdown.
Yeah, yes.
The Connected Leadership is what I call my lockdown book, because it was conceived, written, published in lockdown, and that's the one that you've been referring to, that you've
Yes.
read and kindly reviewed on Amazon. Thank you for that.
You
And
noticed.
I did indeed. So that's Connected Leadership. So that's what we've been discussing. That's available on Amazon and all good bookstores and some rubbish ones as well. The book that I've been working on for 3 years, that's with my publisher at the moment, we're aiming for the first week and a half in December for publication of that. Is called Just Ask.
Yeah.
And it's the importance of vulnerability and asking for help. Some amazingly powerful stories from people around the world, from everyday people to celebrities like Sir Clive Woodward in there, and some really some fascinating stories and expert insight, which is where Sir Clive comes in. And then the podcast, depending on the date this is coming out, but we're hoping to launch the 7th of September. That's the goal. Is the Connected Leadership podcast. So it follows the theme, and it's how professional relationships impact executive success. So I have a number of interviews in the can. We're launching with 3 podcasts. One of them is an interview with Goldie Sayers, who was captain of Team GB Athletics in the very successful European Championships a few years ago, and bronze medalist at the Beijing Olympics in the javelin. And I wanted to talk to Goldie about how you take really high performing individuals, as you know, as track and field stars are, and meld them into a team. And then we've got Vanessa Vallely of wearethecity.com.
Oh, I love Vanessa.
The interview with Vanessa is also with Kerry Dorman, who founded the Association of Business Mentors, all about mentoring, and they just bounced off each other. I sat back, they asked each other questions, which was great. And then we've got Jeff McDonald, who was the global senior vice president of HR for Unilever before he had an anxiety attack field breakdown.
Oh dear.
And Perry Burton, who's the head of talent and culture at Grant Thornton, who was at Lehman Brothers at the crash and had his own breakdown as well. So we talk about mental well-being in the workplace.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 we're launching with. We've then got, and you'll love this one, David McQueen, who you probably know, fantastic speaker from Watford, your neighbour, and Lee Cockerell, who was the senior vice president for operations at Disney World in Orlando, talking about storytelling. So we got the Disney take on storytelling. We've got an astronaut who was on the space shuttle.
Good. Brilliant.
He was on the mission after the Columbia disaster, and so he talks very very vividly about where he thinks NASA failed and got it wrong, and it's all about how to avoid those types of failures and what they didn't learn from it. And that was a fascinating episode, and many more. So
I can't wait. I will definitely subscribe. And listeners, I know you're all subscribed to this podcast, but this sounds good too.
Please do, because I'm really excited about it. And podcasts are, I think, a great new medium. I've really got into listening to podcasts much more regularly recently. They're my walking companion.
Yes.
Because I don't have a driving companion anymore, so I never drive anywhere. But I think it's fantastic, and thank you for doing this one as well. I think it's
thank you. Well, I've been podcasting for 6.5 years. So I was an early bird on this one, and I've learnt so much. I've met so many amazing people. It is great for that.
It is great for that. I've had 2 podcasts in the past, but I've never stuck at it. I'm being a lot more strategic this time in how I go about it, and thinking really what I'm trying to achieve and who my audience are. So well done for. 6.5 years is very impressive in a time where podcasts weren't popular and the feedback wasn't there. Yeah, exactly. But it was right for the business that I have. Anyway, I mustn't take any more of your time because I know how busy you are. If people want to connect with you or want to, that's perhaps wrong, want more information about your book and the work that you're doing, how can they contact you? My website is Lopata, lopata.co.uk. And you can find everything there. You can find me online. I'm on Instagram. There's a personal account at Andy Lopata, or Connecting Is Not Enough, with underscores between the words. On Instagram, there's Twitter, Andy Lopata, and the Connected Leadership Podcast on Twitter. Networking Strategy on Facebook, or facebook.com/networking strategy. The page is called Connecting Is Not Enough. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn, make sure you personalize it. And listeners, I will make sure that I put all of these details in the notes for you. So please follow Andy and what he's doing, buy his books, because it's absolutely incredible. Thank you, Andy, for giving up some of your time to share your expertise with my listeners. My pleasure. Thank you again for inviting me, Susan. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Until next time, this is Susan from Superstar Communicator.